Hello guys, how are we all doing? Welcome back to EFL Championship predictions. We are back with some Championship games this weekend to predict all over again, and I'm joined by Sophie. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Glad that we're back level.
Yes, we are. If we quickly mention the points, I was 1 point ahead. Sophie beat me by 1 point, and therefore we are level, 230 to 230. It's neck and neck between our Championship predictions. Make sure to share your Championship predictions down in the comments, and you know the drill for these videos. Make sure to smash the like button. The Championship predictions is getting some great support, so let's go for 1,500. We're putting the Championship predictions video out on Wednesday this week, with the Premier League predictions video coming tomorrow on Thursday. Let's smash 1,500 likes. Make sure to subscribe if you are an EFL Championship fan and you haven't already. It's free to do and you'll be helping us out. And let's dive into some predictions straight away then, Sophie. Let's start at the Hawthorns for a West Midlands derby. Two teams fighting for playoff places, West Bromwich Albion and Coventry City. Let's start with West Bromwich Albion, Sophie. You did back them to draw 1-1 away at Hull last week, and they did, so well done on that.
Yeah, well, I struggled to separate the two, so I thought 1-1's a safe bet, and yeah, it came in.
Yeah, West Brom and Hull City still occupy those two final playoff places, but Coventry, Preston and Norwich are all still in pursuit. And really, after losing to Preston last week in the league, Coventry need to come here and get something. It'd be great if we could win this, Sophie, but as we said with Preston being a bogey team last week, West Brom are also a bit of a bogey team for Coventry.
Yeah, I really don't see us winning there. It'd be a massive result.
Yeah, it would be. It would be a statement result if Coventry can get something. I'm not going to lie, I'd be happy with a draw, to be honest, just so we don't lose any ground, and it is away from home. But I am actually tempted to go for West Brom, Sophie. Coventry did get back to winning ways against Maidstone after losing to Preston in the league, but I won't let that gloss over my opinion on this one. My prediction for this one, Sophie, I'm going to go West Brom 2, Coventry 1. I think it could be close. I don't think there's going to be a lot between the two, but I just think West Brom will have it.
Yeah, I've said it time and time again this season that West Brom, I like the look of West Brom. They're doing very well this season. I like the manager and they're doing bits on the pitch. So I would be happy with a draw, and I will back us to get a draw, and I think that'd be a really good result for us. West Brom fans, I don't think would be as happy, because really they could look at this as a winnable game. Yeah, I'm just going to stick with my draw, 1-1.
1-1. I would absolutely snap your hand off for a draw, but I just feel a little bit negative about this one. On to the next one, Sophie. We've got another derby. This one is Bristol City versus Cardiff City. An interesting matchup here, of course. Two sides in the middle of the table, really. Bristol City, they lost to Sheffield Wednesday last week, and I did think they would actually. I did back the Owls 2-1. Back at home, I feel like Bristol City will fancy their chances. Let's give Cardiff some credit though, Sophie. They did beat Stoke in what we called probably the most boring fixture on paper last week, but it wasn't 0-0.
No.
It was 2-1 to Cardiff. A good result for them, and I think this could be close, but do you know what? I'm going to just give it with the home advantage to Bristol City. I feel a little bit guilty that I should be going for Cardiff based on the results last week, but that doesn't always have to be what you have to go on.
No, and it was Stoke as well, so.
I just think Bristol City will get back to winning ways. They have been a decent team. They've had a little wobble. I'm going to go 2-1 Bristol City.
Okay, I'm going to go another draw. Yeah, Cardiff got the win, but it was against Stoke. I did think that would probably be a draw, so fair play for actually getting the 3 points there. But the form Stoke are in, everyone's beating them at the moment. So to get a draw against Bristol City, I still feel like that would be a good result, and I actually see that playing out. I'm going to go for another 1-1.
You go for another 1-1 draw?
1-1.
Okay, right, we've got another derby up next, Sophie, and this one is a Yorkshire derby, and Huddersfield Town host Leeds United. It really could be interesting, this one, Sophie. Leeds United's form in the league has been absolutely fantastic, and we did both back them to beat Leicester. You got it 3-1 right at the death.
Right at the death, thank you very much.
I'd said 2-1, and it looked like it was going to finish 2-1, and then they scored in the 94th minute, so you got your prediction right. And they come to Huddersfield, Sophie, who, let's not underestimate Huddersfield. They went and won at Watford, which we didn't predict.
No, I didn't see that coming whatsoever.
I've not really been too concerned about Huddersfield going down this season. They're certainly in the mix, but I think they have got enough to stay up. And obviously they brought in a new manager and it seems to be working at the moment. This one's tricky though. I do feel a little bit guilty going against Huddersfield again, but Leeds United, Sophie, are becoming the Man City of the Championship. They're winning game after game. What I will say though is Leeds United being involved in FA Cup action in midweek could take it out of them a little bit. So I think Leeds could just edge a very tight game here, but the 3 points is the most important thing. Huddersfield 1, Leeds 2.
Yeah, so you're going for the same scoreline as last week, and so am I. I'm going to say 3-1 again. I do want to give Huddersfield some credit because that was a good result against a good Watford side. So big 3 points, but coming up against Leeds, even though you are the home side, I think it's just a very, very difficult game. Leeds are absolutely flying at the moment, and I think it's going to continue. 3-1.
3-1 to Leeds. There you go. We'll see if you get it right again.
Yeah.
Next up, Sophie, another really interesting matchup, I think. It's Birmingham City versus Southampton. Now, Birmingham, Sophie, they had been picking up some decent results. Obviously, Tony Mowbray has now gone away for health reasons, and once again, we wish him the best. But it is expected that he's going to be out for at least a few weeks. They went to Ipswich last week, which was tricky. They did lose 3-1, which you predicted once again. We did do pretty well with our predictions last week. One thing we didn't predict, though, Sophie, is Southampton to lose at home to Millwall, and they really have lost some ground. 3 defeats in the last 4, and that can almost be it in a promotion race. They are quite far behind now, although it could obviously turn around in just a matter of 2 games. I really don't see Leeds or Ipswich dropping many points at the moment, so Southampton have got a lot of catching up to do, and maybe they drop some more points here. I'm going to go for a draw. My head is telling me Southampton, but I'm going to give Birmingham something because they have been better at home recently. 1-1.
You know what? I'm going to say 2-1 Blues. Southampton have dropped off it in recent weeks, and I did obviously predict Blues to lose against Ipswich, but that's Ipswich who are again flying. Southampton are in the opposite direction and are falling down the table a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to say 2-1 Blues.
Wow, that would be a big scoreline. Birmingham City, do you know what it could suit them is, I don't think they're going to go down. They almost have that freedom of not having too much to play for.
Exactly, yeah, and Southampton, there's a lot of pressure on now.
That could work to Birmingham's favour. We'll stick in the Midlands, Sophie, and we'll go over to the East Midlands, where there's a big game between Leicester City and Queen's Park Rangers. Now, QPR, Sophie, continue to churn the points out. I predicted them to beat Rotherham 2-1, and I got that one spot on. There's plenty of good predictions, as we say last week. They take on Leicester, Sophie, and obviously we said that you predicted them to lose 3-1 to Leeds. I'm not too worried about Leicester. I did say that, their form has dropped a little bit, but because of the points they've already got on the board, they've still got a bit of a healthy lead. What I will say, though, is if they lose this one, then I will get a little bit concerned for Leicester City being able to, really get over the line as strong as we thought they would, because if Leeds and Ipswich win, they will close the gap, and it just becomes a little bit closer than what we thought it was. And there's a chance QPR could come here and get something. As we said, they're picking up the form.
Yeah.
I just think this is maybe a little bit of a stretch for QPR, especially with Leicester really needing to retaliate after last week. They need a reaction. I'm going to go Leicester edge it, but I think it could be close. I'll go Leicester 2, QPR 1.
Yeah, I'm actually going for the same scoreline. I don't think Leicester are going to walk away with this game, whereas maybe like a month or 2 ago I would have said, maybe 4-0 Leicester, but I don't think they've dropped off it massively, but their recent performances hasn't been at the standards they've set, so I'm still going to back them to win, but I do think it's going to be a close game, so I agree with your scoreline, 2-1. Yeah,
both going for the Foxes to edge past QPR. Next up, Sophie, let's go down to the Den, where it is the Lions versus the Hornets, Millwall versus Watford. What a great reaction that was from Millwall last week. They did just about bring in Neil Harris in time for the Southampton game, and what a start.
Yeah, new manager bounce.
And they need it to,
keep bouncing.
They need another bounce here, really, Sophie, because Stoke are in the bottom 3 now, and it does look to me like that 22nd and 23rd place could keep swapping around in the final few weeks of the season. So Millwall need to build on that result last week against Watford, who will be a bit flat and deflated after losing at home to Huddersfield. It wouldn't entirely surprise me if Watford can come here and win, given the results for the 2 sides last week were complete contrasts. But I will go for Millwall. I will follow up with that result from last week and say they win 2-1 again.
Okay, I'm going to go back to my old Millwall trusty 1-0 win.
Millwall 1-0?
Yeah, I'm going back to that again. I do see this being a low scoring one. Watford's form has dipped because I was considering them in a playoff shout. At the moment, I'm not classing them as part of those teams. I think there is mounting pressure on Ismail because we know what Watford are like. They do like sacking managers, and the form has dipped off a little bit. Yeah, Millwall 1-0 for me. I think it's going to be a double bouncer.
It's funny with Watford, I suppose, because in previous seasons they've sacked managers that have been doing well, but it seems like Ismail's not doing too well, but they're sticking by him. Hopefully they stick by him and the results improve, but at the moment the results aren't going their way, to be honest, are they? Let's go to Carrow Road, Sophie, in a big playoff chasing matchup. It's Norwich City versus Sunderland. I really didn't expect Sunderland to lose at home to Swansea last week, I must say. But Norwich dropped points to Blackburn as well, so both sides really need to get back to winning ways. You feel like if it was a draw, Sunderland would perhaps be the slightly happier of the two. But because they're further down, they're more desperate for the win, actually, really, to get back into the playoff conversation. I make Norwich favourites for this with the home advantage and the better positioning in the table. But I'm going to go for a little surprise and actually go for Sunderland here. I don't know what it is about Norwich. They're a good team, but I could just see Sunderland turning up and this one being my surprise result. 2-1 Sunderland.
Okay, I'm going to go 2-1 the other way. I think Norwich are rightly the favourites in this one. They're a very good team. Equally, Sunderland are a good team as well. But I am going to lean towards the home side in this one. So Norwich 2-1 for me.
There you go. Both going 2-1 in opposite directions. Share your thoughts for that game at Carrow Road between Norwich and Sunderland. Next up, Sophie, this does sound like a decent matchup. It's Plymouth Argyle versus Ipswich Town. Two teams that have come up from League One and been brilliant. Plymouth, of course, very good at home this season, but the away wins have started to come. And what a result at Middlesbrough last week.
Yeah, didn't see that coming, and I'm so glad for those travelling fans that they got a result.
Yeah, and if you think Plymouth are doing well, then Ipswich are doing even better. They are still in the race for the top two, and with Southampton's form just wobbling over the last couple of games, it does look like right now a shootout between Leeds and Ipswich. So Ipswich need to keep winning because Leeds keep winning. But this one's tricky, Sophie. Plymouth, I didn't expect them to win at Middlesbrough, and they did. And we know that they are usually better at home. What does worry me with Plymouth is if they put out the performance they did against West Brom at home in the midweek before that, then they'd get beat here.
Battered.
But I'm going to go for an entertaining game. Two good teams on their day. I'm going to go 2-2.
Do you know, I was really tempted to say Desmond as well, but it seems that Ipswich at the moment are doing it in like the final minutes and they're just getting the 3 points. When you think it's down and out and it's just going to be a point, they get the 3, and I think it's going to be a similar tale in this game. 3-2 Ipswich for me. I do see there being goals. Yeah,
that sounds brilliant, to be honest. I think it was a close game when this one was at Portman Road. I think Plymouth really did push Ipswich right to the end, but Ipswich did get the 3 points. On to the next one, Sophie. I also like the look of this one as we go to Deepdale for Preston versus Hull City. Two playoff chasers in very good form, Sophie. And of course, we got to see Preston firsthand on Friday night. We could say all the bad things we want about Coventry, but Preston were very, 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 very good.
They were. They're very good against Coventry anyway, but I've been backing them week in, week out up until the Cov game, and then my bias took over and I backed us to win, and I had egg on my face.
Yeah, but one prediction you weren't left with egg on your face is the Hull City game, which we said you did predict a 1-1 draw. Hull City are playing very well. To take 4 points off Southampton and West Brom is fantastic. It's another tricky game here. I do remember Hull City winning at Preston 4-1 at the start of last season, I believe, or it might have even been the season before that. And I do think Hull City did beat Preston earlier this season when they were at home. I'm not going to be able to separate them. Hull City, maybe before last week, I'd have had as slight favourites, but Preston really did leave an impression on me after how good they were against Coventry, Sophie. So another Desmond, 2-2.
Okay, yeah, I can see why you're backing a draw here. However, I was doing quite well back in Preston, so I'm going to back them again. I'm going to say 2-1, which would be massive for the playoffs.
It would be. That would really open it up.
It would.
Out of these two, who has the better chance of making the playoffs? Is it too close to call?
It is, but you've got to say Hull City, I think.
Yeah, I think Hull City's team is really coming on leaps and bounds. Funnily enough, this week we're not going for them, but we do go for them a lot of the time. Yeah. Share your thoughts if you're a Preston or Hull fan. It does look a really interesting game and one we are really struggling to separate there. On to the next game, Sophie. Another derby. It's a Yorkshire derby and it's a big one. It's Rotherham versus Sheffield Wednesday. The bottom two are facing off. And just like I said with Rotherham versus QPR last week, which I did predict correctly, it is a bigger game for Sheffield Wednesday, whereas last week I said it was a bigger game for QPR. That's not me being totally horrible to Rotherham, but their chances of staying up just aren't as good, and they kind of proved me right last week by losing. I did also back Sheffield Wednesday to win 2-1 against Bristol City. I think Sheffield Wednesday pinched this. I think it'd be low scoring and cagey, but Sheffield Wednesday did beat Rotherham 2-0 at Hillsborough. At the New York Stadium, I'm going to go 1-0 to Wednesday. Okay. I think they'll bring thousands of fans. They'll pack out that away end. And Danny Roll has got them on a roll. And I think they could be coming out of the bottom three soon. 1-0 Wednesday.
I like that. Yeah, it is looking likely that they're going to get out of that bottom three. And I'm going to back them to win. I don't often do it, but you are playing Rotherham. So 2-1 Wednesday. Again, another 2-1.
That's harsh on Wednesday, just because they're playing Rotherham.
No, not just because they're playing Rotherham, but mainly because they're playing Rotherham.
Their form over the last few games
has improved.
It's like a mid-table team, so if they keep that up, they're going to catch up with other teams.
Be safe, yeah.
Speaking of teams in the bottom three, Sophie, how about this? It's Stoke City versus Middlesbrough, and Stoke are now in the bottom three. We did say for a couple of weeks there's a cluster of teams that are sliding towards the bottom three, and Sheffield Wednesday and QPR are eating up the ground, and it's Stoke that are the first victim to fall in. But like I said earlier, I do think it will chop and change through the season. I do think Stoke could get out of the bottom three, but then possibly fall back in, and there'll be a bit of this and a bit of that. They take on Middlesbrough, Sophie, who have got to be completely deflated with a 2-0 home defeat to Plymouth. So it makes me think, what do I go for here? I'm tempted to go for a draw, but I'll just give it to Middlesbrough with the quality they've got. I suppose it's a bigger game for Stoke because, you know, they're really in the bottom three and need
They've got
points.
A fight now,
But Middlesbrough really need to get back to winning ways if they want to have a chance of making the playoffs. They did win at Leicester before losing to Plymouth, so I'll go Stoke 1, Middlesbrough 2.
Okay, I see this being a low scoring one actually. Quite cagey because Stoke are desperate for the points now. But I think Middlesbrough have got to be desperate for a win just for team confidence. And I think they're going to do it 1-0. So low scoring one, but 1-0 Middlesbrough.
1-0, there you go. Both back in Middlesbrough to win by 1 goal, but Stoke really needs something. The final game, Sophie, is in South Wales, and it's Swansea City versus Blackburn Rovers. Two sides that, you know, over the last few seasons have been in the playoff picture, but this time round they're both kind of trying to steer clear of trouble.
Yes, they are. They're very low down.
They are low down, and I'm surprised by both of them. Blackburn maybe less so, because we kind of knew a little bit coming into this season that they weren't going to have as good resources. I think they already came out and said that. I do like Eustace as an appointment, and it was a decent draw against Norwich last week, and it was Dominic Hyam who scored the equaliser, which kind of helped Coventry out.
It did, yeah. Agent Hyam.
Agent Hyam. They take on Swansea. So Swansea City last week, we mentioned a good win against Sunderland. It needs to be a result that they build upon.
Yeah.
And I think they might. I'm really not tempted to go for many goals here. I'll go Swansea edge it 1-0.
Yeah, I can see why you've backed Swansea, because I probably wouldn't back Blackburn to win this one. However, I think a draw might play out, actually. I think it could be another 1-1 for Blackburn, which wouldn't be the greatest result for Swansea being the home side, but I can just see it happening. 1-1.
Yeah, it seems to me a pretty tricky one to prize apart, so I was tempted to go for a draw, but there you go. That is our predictions for the Championship games this weekend. As I say, do share your Championship predictions down in the comments. We're always interested to see your Championship predictions, and between us, it is neck and neck. If you've enjoyed this video, guys, please do make sure to drop a thumbs up. As we said, 1,500 likes would be absolutely fantastic, so drop a like, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you for joining me, Sophie.
Thank you.
We will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.